not apologies, not apologies.
4 and 5, I think you get a
Changed our plans.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Start being rude to me, like, and then I said, no, stop, or I'll call the police.
이거 좀 어려워요. 외국 사람도. さっき横のお店でトッポキを買おうと思ったけど韓国語しかなかったから分からなかったで買えなかった No English, no Japanese.
I would say air pollution because we weren't used to it. Like the first few days is okay, but day number like 4 and 5, I think you get a sore throat and you start coughing. So maybe that was a little bit of inconvenience, but it definitely didn't take away from the experience we had in Korea.
Yeah, same for me. I think the air pollution, like especially the first couple days, like my throat started hurting, so I thought I'm sick, but I wasn't sick. I was just the air pollution because once we traveled to another country, like all my symptoms went away. So I think that was the biggest concern. But everything else has been amazing. We love Korea. Actually, Vancouver has one of the cleanest airs just because we're surrounded by a lot of mountains and water and trees and forests. So
And I guess no Chinese factories.
and we're very far away from any kind of factory, so we're lucky in that sense. Geographically, I think we're very lucky.
Inconvenience, I guess. Toilet paper, you can't flush it. Sometimes, like somewhere, you cannot flush toilet papers and you have to like throw it away in a trash can. That's the difference, and it's kind of convenient. In Japan, I can flush like toilet paper. In Japan, never ever. I get confused and I also like.
So the demonstration near Palace today, because we kind of were stuck in the bus, we couldn't go out. We had to wait. Next to going to Bukchon village, there was demonstration and police buses. Yeah, so we couldn't go there by bus. We had to go for a walk and changed our plans.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And we didn't do what we wanted. So.
Yeah, because we didn't have much time to go there and then go Myeongdong for shopping, so we just skipped the part to go to Bukchon this time.
그 지하철가 너무 불편하겠어요. 매매도 다른 방대로 앉아겠어. 그거 광고가 약간 잘 모르겠어. 어떤 거 방이게 맞아겠어요. 매매 봐도 안 돼, 여기 아니에요. 또 다시 올라가겠어. 네, 이거 좀 어려워요. 외국 사람도
I think for me personally, I'm a very sociable person, and I noticed that a lot of people were in their groups and in their settings together, and so it was kind of hard to break in sometimes. I think maybe if I got the courage to kind of ask and kind of jump in, it might be a little bit easier, but it was hard to jump in the cliques, if that makes sense.
I had a bad experience in Busan. I was in a shopping mall, and I think it was the Grab taxi to go back to my hotel. And I had a card with my address, and I showed him, and he could not speak English. So he just translated on the Google Translate, I know where is it. But it's a place that I've been before, so I know kind of the way to go back to the hotel. I was in the taxi, and I was distracted on the phone, and then suddenly like, this is not the way that I go to the hotel normally. And then I opened the Google Maps, we were going to the opposite side. And then I said to him, like, open the Google Maps, no, it's wrong. It's the other side, the other side. And he, no. Like, start being rude to me, like, and then I said, no, stop, or I'll call the police. And then finally, okay. He pulled over the car, and then finally he put on the GPS, and he was like, maybe cursing me in Korean all the way back to the hotel, like looking at me in the mirror. They're like speaking a lot of things. But I don't know, because I took many taxis the same way, and all of them, they don't speak English, they just see the address and just put in the GPS. So he follows the navigation, it's no problem. And the first time saying like I know where is it, but he was driving really far, like the hotel is here and going to the other side. And I wait like a few minutes, maybe he knows a better way, but we were getting further. No, stop. At the end, everything was fine. Bad experience that I had in Korean in 2 years that I traveled to Korea. The only one. The rest is like amazing. Yes, I think maybe he's the only guy in Korea that like.
The immigration, the lady just took so long. She just took so long. My mom got through faster, and then like 4 people went, and then I got through. So it just took a little bit. I don't know.
She made him move his hair.
Yeah, I had to do it.
Eyes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Очень много людей не знают английский, и это, для меня, я прям был в шоке. Я думал, тут все знают английский. И вот как раз-таки эта ситуация, когда я ехал в автобусе, и водитель автобуса встал и начал говорить на корейском, я не мог спросить, что здесь вообще происходит. И в итоге я просто сидел и ждал, пока все люди начнут выходить. И когда я вышел практически в центр митинга, и я немножко растерялся, потому что там было очень много людей. людей, а мне было вообще нужно на другую станцию. И я еще плохо знаю английский, и они плохо знают английский, и мы общались просто переводчиками.
So the thing that I saw was inconvenient was Uber. We couldn't get our payment to work through it, but we got a taxi and it worked out fairly well though.
Yeah. The cards and everything worked on the taxi, but not the Uber app. So
Yeah.
it could be our phones that's still at US connected or something. I don't know.
Too, yeah.
It could be one of those. So, but taxis are pretty convenient.
Not old people are friendly with foreigners. Young people are very friendly. They normally see you and smile. On the other hand, old person normally they avoid the expats, foreign person. Ajashi. Sometimes they speak like very harsh, harsh words and aggressive behavior.
You know, like one time I was sitting in a train and I was calling my mother, and Korean Ajashi, he was sitting next to me. He started yelling like, 전화 안 돼요, 전화 안 돼요. I said, 왜 안 돼요? 이거 한국에 이거 이렇게 안 돼요. 나쁜 아저씨.
Not all. Some of them are Napumini. And also we are Muslims. As a Muslim, we eat halal. So in Korea, we normally don't find halal food easily. So that is the...
Okay, number one, the language. I think it's very difficult to understand. And then all the subway lines, the railroad, it was very confusing for me, for us. There's a lot of lines and connections.
Language barrier. Some people are not understanding English and we don't know Korean basically. Especially restaurant.
Yeah. エスカレーターが日本より少ないからスーツケース運ぶのが大変。階段が多い。
It's been nothing inconvenient. Everything in Korea has been good. The people are very nice. Everyone's very helpful. I think it's been very good. Even from the airport till now, everything's been very good. I just ate at a restaurant down the street. It was excellent. But no inconvenience. Here's the inconvenience. It's cold. I should have come in the summertime. It's the only inconvenience. It's cold.
Inconvenience for us, especially for Indians, is the food. We were searching for vegetarian food. That is less or not options here. That was a little thing that can be improved. Rest is very fine, very good. Clean city, helpful people, and the climate currently is fantastic, and I'm loving it very much. Only the food little bit, it is very difficult to find a vegetarian food.
Only very far. Everything okay. But about 9 hours, 10 hours is very tired. Dubai to Korea. Only try it, no problem. It's okay.
Well, this is my second day here. It was difficult to find international food. There is only chicken, but to have different or international foods, different cultural foods, it would be nice. Something maybe African or even Indian foods, something like that. That's the only thing. Other thing is good. The chicken is tasty. I like it.
Maybe transportation. If you don't know how to read Korean, it's kind of hard to get around and stuff. And the taxi drivers don't speak that good English. So if you don't have a translator or someone who speaks Korean with you, it's kind of hard to get around. Kind of like a language barrier.
I feel that only the language thing, because everywhere we go it's in Korean. So we were not able to find in English, so we have to use translate. This was only inconvenience. Rest, everything is good. The people over here are friendly and everything. So not at all a problem when it comes to that way. We only have to take this all on translator, that's it.
An inconvenience. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it said what was convenient. I thought it was saying what was convenient. No, I'm pregnant right now, so seeing like all the pregnancy seats and all the elderly seats, I think that's really cool, you know. In America, like, yes, we'll do it, but like out of courtesy. But I like how Korea here is like there's designated spots for like the elderly, the disabled, and the pregnant. Yeah, that's cool. I don't know, there's not a whole lot of inconvenience. Like the taxis are amazing, public transport's amazing. People are so nice. They're so kind.